Greetings, Osio, Ayoldaza. Welcome to the Red Road East. I'm your host, Fierce Truth Seeker. The Red Road East is an Aboriginal TV program dedicated to archiving and preserving the history, legacy, and culture of Aboriginal peoples east of the Mississippi River and the Caribbean. So, we're now on part 9 of the Empire Strikes Black Lineage of the Aboriginal Movement series. I apologize for the delay. There's been a lot going on, and my time has been consumed with other things. However, I want to hurry up and move forward and get the lineage of the Aboriginal movement part of the Empire Strikes Black series over with, because there's so much to cover. This is just the first topic, and I want to get on to the other topics, okay, and finish the lineage of the Aboriginal movement, okay. I'm gonna set the timer. Where did I put that timer? Let's see here. Give me 1 second. Oh boy, let's see. Oh, here we go. So, what I want to also do is, okay, let me set the clock. I'm going to try to stick to half an hour, stay consistent with the program time. And again, you know, we're not on air in the studio because, as you know, due to COVID-19, we're not able to be at the television station. The facilities are shut down, you know, until all this stuff is lifted. So I'm forced to record from home, you know, on my computer and stuff like that, which is a new experience for me. One good thing I can say that came out of it, though, is it forced me to step my game up as far as technology is concerned, you know, doing stuff from home. I'm used to just recording in the studio and using their facilities. So, you know, now I'm forced to be a lot more creative, you know, with, you know, a lot of this, you know, technology on the computer and everything. So, with that said, I also like to say that between the time span that I've been out of the loop since the last video, you know, we go through the comment section and stuff like that, and I did have a little discussion with one of the YouTube people who I was going back and forth with in the comment section, Carlton Walker. And, you know, we had a discussion, you know, after the whole George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and, you know, the host of other injustices that have been going on. And, you know, we just agreed to just, you know, squash this things going on, you know, and, you know, we'll just deal with things, you know, on a brotherly level. you know, and which is a good thing. We are always, so quick to beat up each other, when we have a real enemy out there, and so I apologize to Carlton Walker and all the things that were said before. Don't take them seriously, and all the stuff about the homosexual and all that, this stuff and all that, the little back and forth, word for word, name calling and stuff like that, that's squash, so I agreed to just, any questions, that you have, Carlton, that you expressed before, I'm just going to answer them. We don't have to debate or make a wager or anything like that. I'm just going to answer your questions. Okay? And we'll deal with it like that, which is, for me, not a big deal. Like I say, I have all of that information and then some. Anything that I say I can back up. I don't just back it up with one document. I have, 4, 5, and 6 other documents, behind that. So, let's just go on and let's get into it, because we're getting into that half hour, that goes by very quickly. So, let's see here. I did want to address a couple of comments, new comments that came in. Let's see. Let's see here.
As opposed to
okay, we have a question from Africa RBG. Okay, so some of the Afrocentric followers out there. He asked the question, hello there. I understand that many of we people of African descent have native ancestors as well. But do you guys recognize the African part of you as well? Okay, so I'm going to hit a love because I appreciate your question. At least he asked a question. I don't mind a question being asked. A lot of times, it's the manner in which the comment comes. If a comment comes in sarcastic, and antagonistic, I'm gonna respond the same way, But this is someone who sincerely has a question. It's not a troll or anything like that. They want to know, what our position is as those who are Aboriginal to the land. Okay, so I will say, Africa RBG, here's what it is. So, me, I come from the Aboriginal standpoint, American Aboriginal standpoint, and we've been fed a narrative throughout the years in the miseducational fool system, and they've taught us that all people who have dark skin, who have brown skin, originated in Africa or have come to these shores as slaves via the transatlantic slave trade from Africa. Okay? Now, me personally, um, as you all know, I come from, I'm an original American Aborigine. So, I go back, before the new Aboriginal movement. So, my position is not a position of, one being anti-African. You know, Africa is a rich continent with a lot of powerful history, and I acknowledge that. I have nothing against Africa, which is a continent, made up of many countries, many tribes, and clans. So when you make the statement, when you say we of African descent, well, how do you know that you are of African descent? Okay? Do you have any genealogy that leads you back to an African ancestor? What is your family history? What does your family have to say about your lineage? Do you have any stories? Because we all have a different story. There's no such thing as, one story, one size fits all when it comes to those of us here in the Americas. We all have a different story. We all have different genealogies. We all come from different tribes, nations. We all have our own personal story. So what is your story? I can only speak of mine. So what does your family have? Do you have stories from your family where you can point to a great or great grandmother who was from a particular part of Africa? Um, any evidence? Y'all speak any of the language? Do you know of any stories about you coming off of a slave ship or anything, or should I say, of an ancestor that came off of a slave ship that was brought to the Americas? If you can't answer those questions, then you can't just assume that your ancestors came from Africa, because Africa does not have a patent on dark skin. Okay? There were dark skinned people all over the planet. Okay? And just because you get a DNA test and it says that you have such and such ancestry from Africa, that's not good enough. Okay? It's possible that you may have had someone in the very distant past who came to these shores and, for the purposes of trade or whatever, intermarried or, had relations, with an Aboriginal here. And you may have some African ancestry that way. you know. But again, just getting a DNA test and saying, oh yes, I'm African, it doesn't work that way. Okay? You have to be able to look at your DNA and then have some type of genealogy to back up your claim. And if you can't do that, then it doesn't make sense to assume that, because you got to remember the dark skinned people are all over the planet. Okay? So, not only that, but you also have to remember, well, I'm not going to get too deep into that because that's going off topic. And we want to stick with the lineage, but we'll get deeper into that later on. I don't want to stray too far because I want to get this lineage thing out of the way. But in later videos, we'll get deep in it. But what I will say, just to answer your question, is that me personally, I am an Aboriginal folklorist. Okay? I know the stories. Okay, I'm a storyteller. I know the stories, the folklore of many tribes, and for the most part, the position of most of the original peoples of this land, the Americas, have in their folklore that civilization started here in the Americas, okay, and that we weren't brought from anywhere, okay. And is there science to back up that claim? Because what I do is I present the oral. See, I don't just look at science and say, okay, this is what, based on anthropology, this is gospel truth. Because anyone who's studied long enough, you'll understand that a lot of these anthropologists have a certain circle of knowledge that they keep hidden, okay, and they're sworn to secrecy, and they don't let certain things out. They keep certain knowledge within a certain, within their own private circles, and they give out conventional wisdom for the masses, okay. Augustus Laplongeon, that that, okay, in Queen Mu, the Egyptian Sphinx, he talked about that, okay. So what I do is, I study things from many angles, from many perspectives. And so I look at first the folklore, and then I look at the oral history and see if there's science to back up the oral history. Okay, I do it in the reverse. Okay, because if you've been studying long enough, you'll know that these anthropologists, they go to the natives and they ask them, what are their stories about different things, related to their findings. They ask the natives, about, the monuments and stuff that are here. Like, what are your stories, about different things that they find, okay? And most of the time, I say 9 out of 10 times, these anthropologists, they find out that a lot of things that they found are exactly what the indigenous people told them a long time ago, okay? And they wind up finding that these things are true. So I go by the folklore first, okay? And the folklore, we say that we that civilization started here, okay? And then what we did was we traveled and we took civilization to those other places, that such as Africa, Europe, those other continents, okay? We went to those places, colonized, and set up civilizations, okay? So that's just a little food for thought there for that particular individual in the comment section, Africa RBG. And if you stay tuned and you watch my series here on this channel, like and subscribe, and then you will be updated when I post new videos, and you'll see where, I verify all of these claims. Okay? So let's see, who else had a comment? Let's see here. Let us see. Matthew Thomas, thank you for your time and hard work. I absolutely appreciate your work and teachings. Thank you, Ski. Thank you, Matthew Thomas. Thank you for visiting the channel. And I hope you like and subscribe as well. Okay, and let's see here. There was another comment that I found rather interesting. I'm trying to find it. Give me 1 second. I'm looking. Looking. Oh man. These comments are always up in your face when you're not looking. But now that I'm looking for the comment, I don't see it. Why is that? Bear with me, y'all. I'm looking for this comment. Okay, I think it's right here. It is right here. Okay. All right. So this comment is from Trendy Kitty. Okay. Trendy Kitty says that she is Choctaw. See it right here? Choctaw. Keep that in mind. Okay. And this is the video that the comment is in reference to. Put it on here. Okay, this video here. American Indian origins of quote-unquote Black American culture. Okay. And so Trendy Kitty says, self-hate for you lost ones is a hell of a drug. You take whatever they give you. You're African now, yet the Africans don't like you. When the truth is revealed, please stay African. I don't want to see you in no kind of native dress. The Africans don't learn about slavery from their family. They learn it here or in school from Europeans. They know we aren't African. If you have never left the country, you will always believe the lie. The world knows who we are, y'all don't. Travel before you speak on a subject like this. Okay? You see, this is why I get upset, because this is another person who assumes, okay, ASS, makes an ass out of herself and assumes. Okay, travel. Okay, as you've seen in my clips of other shows, that I travel. Okay, I've been on the other side of the world traveling. Okay, I've been on a fact-finding mission all the way in Africa. Okay, so I don't know what the hell she's talking about. Okay, so we could, discredit her with that comment already off the bat. Okay, obviously she hasn't traveled, because if she did travel, she wouldn't make a statement, by a blanket statement, saying Africans don't like you. Now, we do know that a lot of the Africans who come here have certain attitudes about us Aboriginals, about we Aboriginals. Okay, we know all about that. I've spoken about that before, and how, a lot of them are backwards, and do not like us. That is a fact. Okay, but to make a blanket statement and say all of them do not like us, that is a bunch of BS. Okay, you don't even know all that. Obviously, you haven't traveled. Okay, I've been to the continent, so there's nothing you could tell me about the continent. Okay, and I know that firsthand that is BS. Okay, I've been to the continent. When I was on the continent, I had a girlfriend on the continent. I met many different people on the continent that were very happy that I was there. Okay? Were there misfits there? Of course, just like any other place. I can tell you just as many misfits that are here in America. So, so we could scratch that as well. So let's see. Self-hate. Who is self-hating? Nobody said anything that was self-hating, so we could scratch that comment as well. Take whatever they give you, prove it. Oh, what did we take? See, this is nonsense. You're African now. Who said anything about being African? Okay, well, I know I didn't. And if she's making reference to the elder on the show, obviously this trendy kitty was not paying attention. Her brain was out to lunch when I asked the elder about those of us who are always here, as opposed to those who came via the transatlantic slave trade. And of course, if she was listening, she would have heard the elder say that there's conventional wisdom as far as those of us over here, copper colored people, and there is also another set of wisdom that is not conventional about us being Aboriginal here. She talked about how there were dark-skinned people all over the planet. Okay, I guess Trendy Kitty was smoking her crack or smoking whatever, drinking or whatever when that part of the video was going on. Okay, so we can scratch that. And I guarantee you, okay, the elder that I had on my show, I guarantee you, Trendy Kitty, that she has more knowledge in her pinky thumb that you have in that big old head of yours. Okay? Guarantee you. Okay? Because I've known this elder for a very long time. Okay? And she's been practicing the culture. Not just, you talk about don't wear this and don't wear that. I guarantee you, and I know for a fact, that she knows more about the culture than you will ever know. She has more knowledge of the culture in her pinky than you have in that big old head of yours. Okay? Guarantee you. Okay? She's been practicing the culture for decades. Okay? This elder has spoken at the UN on indigenous matters. Now, who the hell are you? Okay? So, anyway, and I'm not getting mad. I'm not upset, you know. I'm just making some corrections. All right? No malice. All right? The Africans don't learn about slavery from their family. Yeah, and who doesn't know that? I mean, it's not like you said anything that none of us don't know. I mean, these Aborigines, so-called Aborigines, who just dropped on the scene just yesterday. I mean, you know, they say this stuff as if, you know, this is some new knowledge. You know, that's old news, man. I mean, like, who the hell are you? You're like Jane Pillsbury Doe. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, come on, you know, this is old news. You know, you just learned you were Indian like 2 days ago. You know, like, how old are you? You just like 2 seconds old. You know, you just discovered you were Indian. You know, and she says that she is Choctaw. First of all, there is no such people as Choctaw. If Trendy Kitty knew anything, she would know that the original name is Chata. Okay? And I don't just talk it, I have that documented. Okay, I have that documented. I can show you reference. Okay? I can show you that in print. Okay? So we can scratch that nonsense right there. Let's see. They know we weren't African. Yeah. Like, who doesn't know that? Okay. You just finding that out. If you never left your country, we already squashed that madness. The world knows who we are. She says the world knows who we. Y'all don't. Oh, really? You know, you just dropped into this knowledge. You don't even have 10 years under your belt practicing the culture or studying this information, and you're going to talk about who doesn't have knowledge. Unbelievable. You know, you don't know a damn thing about Aboriginal culture, because if so, you wouldn't call yourself Choctaw. Okay? Travel before you speak. Where have you traveled to? I've traveled. I travel. So I don't know what the hell you talking about. Anyway, so enough of that nonsense. So we just shut Trendy Kitty down. All right. Anyway, enough of that madness. Let's get into it. Had to shut that down. And so, Empire Strikes Black. Okay, so we left off. We were looking at the literature. Okay, this is the lineage of the Aboriginal movement. And we looked at what the literature was. Okay, going back before the new millennial Aboriginal movement of today. Okay, and we have proven already that this new Aboriginal stuff was plagiarized from the Moors and the oral history of the Moors. Okay, we already proved that. And so now what we're doing, we're going past that. That last we looked at. This is what we looked at the last time. The biography of the Moors, another piece of literature that was out. Okay, back in the days. All right, and so again, so we looked at literature that was out back in the early 2000s and 90s, and we saw that it was only Moors who was saying that we were Aboriginal as a group, that is, and who were producing literature, okay? And we showed you how the Moorish literature was copied verbatim from the new Aboriginal movement, okay? Now, I must make this disclaimer before we proceed, and I have to say I am not a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America, okay? I already showed you, my affiliations, with the Washita, okay? Showed you my ID from back in the days, Washita, all right? I've been to, different temples, but I've never joined, okay? I am an Aboriginal American mound builder, okay? I'm an Aboriginal Moor, okay? And I'm a whole different offshoot of Moorish science, though I do hold the Prophet Noble Drew Ali in the highest esteem. But I do have to say and put that disclaimer out there that I do not represent the Moorish Science Temple of America, okay? And, I do that out of respect so nobody can accuse me of, saying this, what I say is what the Moorish Science Temple says and this, that, and the other, okay? So I represent the Aboriginal Moors, okay? And when you study deep enough, you're going to find out that when you say more, can't believe we're in 30 minutes already. I'm going to have to cheat the time and put the clock back a little bit. But yeah, when you say more is just a reference to the most ancient people in a particular land, okay? And if you don't know that, that just means that you haven't been studying long enough to understand, and understand that. And after we get off of this particular topic of this particular topic in the series of The Empire Strikes Black, okay, we'll deal with that and prove that, okay? So, all right, let's just get into it. we're really behind time here, and I want to finish the lineage so that we could we could go on and get to the real meat. So let's take a look here. So all right, so we're looking at, this is another group that was around early 2000s and in the 90s. This is the Benet tribe, and this is looking here at Chief Jerry Eaglefeather. Okay, and for those who don't know who this brother is, he is the son of the late Chief Blackhawk. Okay, Chief Blackhawk San Carlos. Okay, and he had has a group. And back in the days, I remember these guys used to come into a lot of. They used to get a lot of flack from the Mongoloid Indians as far as whether or not they had indigenous blood and this, that, and the other. Because as I told you before, it's not, back in the days, it was not like today where it's common knowledge that even from the, we're talking about conventional wisdom, it's common knowledge. You were talking about conventional wisdom now. And conventional wisdom is common knowledge today that so-called black Indians mixed in with the quote-unquote Native Americans or the Mongoloids, okay, and that quote-unquote black people, or what they call black Indians, have Indian blood through mixing in with the tribes. That's conventional wisdom. Okay, today that is considered conventional wisdom and it is accepted. But back in the days, that was not the case. They didn't even, because we're saying we were always here. Okay, we're saying that we didn't come from anywhere. We weren't runaway Africans that mixed in with the Mongoloids. But back in the days, they didn't even, the Mongoloids didn't even want to acknowledge that Africans came and mixed in with the tribes. They didn't even want to accept that. You know, the conventional wisdom that says that the African runaways ran away and established maroon societies, mixing in with the natives. Okay, that's the conventional wisdom. But they didn't, the Mongoloids didn't want to even acknowledge that back in the days. Okay, so you know, this particular group, you know, they used to be under heavy attack. You know, I remember you know, looking at a lot of the chats and stuff like that. You know, it was a constant back and forth. Okay, and so yeah, so Chief Jerry Eaglefeather, his father, let's go on here. Well, let's give a little background. You know, let's look at his group. So again, let me show his picture again. This is the brother right here, Chief Jerry Eaglefeather. Okay, now this brother here, if y'all remember, anybody from New York, if you're not from New York, you won't know this, but there was a group back in the days in New York. They were called the Guardian Angels. Okay, and the Guardian Angels, they were like kind of like almost like an auxiliary police, so to speak. They would be up and down the trains, you know, and they're kind of like an auxiliary police, and you know, they would be all over. You see them all over the city. You see them on the trains, and you know, anything that was, you know, any crime that was going on, you know, they would get involved in this, that, and the other, you know, as sort of like an auxiliary police. You know, they train in martial arts and stuff like that, and they have these red, these red berets, you know, and this brother here co-founded the Guardian Angels with Curtis Sliwa. Okay, now most people only hear about Curtis Sliwa, but you never hear about this brother here being the co-founder. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, and that's this brother right here. And so it says Pioneer Award recipient, the Honorable Chief Jerry Monroe Eagle Feather. On December 9th, 2002, a special signing ceremony took place at the Missouri State Capitol, Jefferson City, Missouri, in the office of the Most Honorable Charles Quincy Troup, Missouri State Representative. The purpose of this signing ceremony were to honor men and women who have made contributions in support of the struggle of civil rights and liberties of Missouri citizens in early years, and for those who have continued the struggle by making exceptional contributions within their prospective fields. Upon recommendation, Jerry Monroe Eagle Feather, founder and principal chief of Black Indians and Intertribal Native American Association, was granted the prestigious Charles Quincy Troup Pioneer Award for accepting the ultimate challenge of service in support of betterment, equal access, equal opportunity, and humane integrity toward the struggle and cause of all citizens within the state of Missouri. The Pioneer Award with respect and acknowledgement of courageous services to our community, state, and county. Signed, the Honorable Charles Quincy Troup, December 9th, 2002. Chief Eagle Feather is a true pioneer within the movement and struggle of Black Indians of North America. Okay, and his profile lists: minister of the gospel, prophetic and healing ministry, men's traditional. He's a men's traditional dancer, lead singer, drummer, storyteller, 4 music CDs. 10th Dan black belt, training since age 3. Co-founder of New York City Guardian Angels Safety Patrols. 1979, founder of Benet. 1989, assistant chief of the New York Warrior Society. 1986, lead singer of drum group Eagle Circle Drum. Keynote speaker at University of Texas. 2000, keynote speaker many New Jersey high schools. 1998, performer at St. John and Divine Cathedral in 1986, a giving thanks to the Native American performing with Carlos Nakai and the Silver Cloud Singers. 1989, theater reformer and poet at the theater in the Park in Queens, New York. 1989, People Magazine. 1980, New York Magazine. 1979, New York Times. 1989, New York Inquirer. 1979, Black Belt Magazine. 1999, The Guardian Angels front page magazine section of the Daily News. The Guardian Angels. 1980, TV performances. Kids Are People Too. David Suskin Show, TV show 2020. Good Morning America, more information, head dancer at many powwows, blah, 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 blah. So he has a long resume, okay? Long resume, right? The Benet tribe, there are many Black Indians in America, some nearly full-blooded native, some as little as 1%. That means one of their ancestral one of their ancestors were full blood. It was believed by many tribes that if you had one drop of Indian blood, then you were Indian. We believe the same way, though we are not owned by the United States government like many other tribes. We still know who we are, and we still also honor our native ancestry. We are B'nai, Yeha, Noha, the strong stone people. We will not be moved, and we will not be removed. Ashoge, Chief Jerry Eagle Feather. And he says, P.S. We do not want to be Indian. We do not claim to be full-blooded Indians. One thing for sure is that we are not wannabes. Lord knows there are many out there today. If we are claiming to be Indian, we wouldn't have the word black attached to our name. We honor both native red and our African black ancestry, something that is not common in American history. But since our Creator chose to create us this way, then we honor both our ancestry. Please respect us, and please respect us that we walk our own way with our Creator. There is no need to be afraid that we want your heritage or culture. We walk the path of the sacred road book, the path of our Creator unseen. Ashoge. So this is coming from his website, and this is their claim here. All right. So let's see here. All right. So though the generally accepted narrative of black Indians is common today, we talked about that already. In the early 90s, 2000, reservation hybrid Indians denied historical mixing with runaway African slaves or black people. That's the conventional wisdom. We talked about that already. Let's see here. Groups such as the Mene tribe constantly under fire. We talked about that. Moors, or mound builders, aka autochthonous Aborigines, were even more so rejected. Okay, and we talked about that also. How those of us who said we were Aboriginal, such as myself, you can imagine what we went through back then. Okay, and again, the Moors were the only group at this time proclaiming that so-called black people were aboriginal to the Americas. Okay, and this is Grandmaster Chief Blackhawk. This is Jerry Eagle Feather's father. Okay, and I've been trying to find some other pictures of Chief Blackhawk. This is the only one that I could find. But this is from a flyer from back in the days. Feature story, Grandmaster Chief Blackhawk San Carlos, tournament and event coverage. Okay, and so for promotion for a tournament. Okay, see if I can make this a little bigger. And Chief Blackhawk, if I remember correctly, he's Mohawk and Apache, I believe. Okay, and yeah, full-blood Mohawk, full-blood Indian, Mohawk and Apache. Okay, and as you can see, he is a copper-colored Aboriginal. Okay, make this a little bigger. All right, and I'm sad to say that the last time I saw Chief Blackhawk. Well, let me give you a little background about Chief Blackhawk. Well, I appreciate Chief Blackhawk a lot because it was Chief Blackhawk's powwow. His powwow was actually my first powwow. I went to his powwow back in the late 90s, okay? and that was my first powwow. He used to give a powwow every year out in Westchester County in Yonkers, and that was his powwow. Was my first powwow. Okay, and the last time that I saw him, um, me and my martial arts instructor, we spent the night at his place, and I was supposed to do an interview with him for my book, but time didn't permit, and I was supposed to link up with him again after that, but years later, some years had passed. How time goes by quickly. Before I, you know, was able to go back and try to link up with him, but I reached out to some people who um, had his number, and they told me that he had passed away. Okay, and what happened was, and many people were saying this, they were saying that Chief Blackhawk had passed away, but come to find out that he did not pass away. Okay, and I was told this, let me see, this was like maybe 2007. Okay, well, yeah, I think it was about 2007 that there was rumors that he passed away, and more than one person said that he had passed away. And I didn't find out until last year, 2019. Somebody told me that, okay, it's actually Jerry Eaglefeather. Okay, made a comment on one of my shows and said, no, he didn't pass away. And I said, yeah, he did. Several people told me that he passed away. And he said, no, he didn't pass away. And then come to find out that he didn't pass away. So I was trying to get in contact with Jerry Eaglefeather, but to get an interview with his father, but he never got back to me. And so what happened was, this is last year, sometime in 2019. So what happened was, at the TV station, one of the other Access producers at the TV station, she saw me editing my show, and she was very interested because she saw that it was, an indigenous TV program, and she said, "Oh, it's very interesting. You have an indigenous show," and she told me that she was friends with, I think she said the wife of Chief Blackhawk, but she told me that he just recently passed away. And I said, no, he didn't pass away, because one of his sons, and Chief Blackhawk has many sons, and by the way, one of his sons is, if y'all know the Last Dragon, Shonuff. Okay? Shonuff. Y'all remember Shonuff. Shonuff is one of Chief Blackhawk's sons. Okay? The late Shonuff, because he passed away years ago. Okay? And so anyway, she tells me that she knows Chief Blackhawk and his wife, this and the other. And she said that he passed away. I said, no, because one of his sons just told me that he was alive. She said, I guarantee you, he has deceased. Recently, she said it was just like a couple of weeks from that time, when I saw her in the studio. And she said, I can put you in contact, with wife or sister or somebody. I can't remember. She said her friend was the wife or sister of Chief Blackhawk. And so, I was really saddened, because I was, really looking to get that interview with Chief Blackhawk, but it never took, because many years I thought he was deceased, and come to find out, it was a false rumor. So anyway, That's that. You can't cry over spilled milk. And so yeah, he's a Chief Black Hawk is the father of Shonuff, from The Last Dragon. For y'all, those of y'all who don't know, who've never seen the movie, which is, by the way, one of my favorite movies. You know, and so yeah, all right. So moving on. Okay, so now we're taking a look at the narrative change. So we went from, like I said, back in the days, the only ones that were saying that we were Aboriginal were the Moors. Okay. And later on, there was a book that came out called The Black American Handbook by Reverend Radine Amin Ra. Okay. And it was from this book that you started to see a shift in the narrative. Okay. And the narrative started to stray away from that of the Moors into a new thing that was, Aboriginal, but we're not Moors. And this was the genesis of that particular school of thought. Okay. And all of these new cats who call themselves Aborigines today, African Americans and African Carrie Davis, and all of these come out of Reverend Radine Amin Ra's school of thought. Okay. All right. So that's when you had all of the discrediting of the Moors, um, the adoption of the slave label Negro, became accepted, claiming that our people were mound builders, and they were Anasazi Cherokees. Okay, but all of our people are not Cherokee. Okay, and there's no documentation to prove that we are all Cherokee. Cherokee is one of many tribes. Okay, and in this book, on page 15, because I don't want to just talk, I like to look at the literature. On page 15 to 16, Amin Ra says, all Negro / brown people born in America represent the last descendants of the Anasazi people, who are the first and oldest race of human beings. The Anasazi people labeled Nubians / American Indians termed Negroes. And on page 17, she says, over time, as Negroes, the Anasazi people, as a sovereign North American Cherokee nation, would lose the recognition to the connection to the sovereignty of their land's identity, culture, and heritage. The Anasazi identity would vanish. The remaining generations are disconnected from their roots and lost. They are now positioned to become a permanently subjugated, controlled people, to be exploited and exterminated by all means possible by Europeans in their homeland. Okay? And says over generations, the new European term for the identity of the Anasazi people, the Planet Keepers, called Indians, becomes Negroes. Okay, and that is from the that particular school of thought. Okay, and this is where the narrative shifts. Okay, and Thus, we have the birth of the new Aboriginal movement. So now, I'm going to get past that. And this particular book is, from, again, the early 2000s. Okay. So you don't have any literature beyond the early 2000s contrary to what the Moors were saying. All right, at least as far as this Aboriginal movement, the copper-colored Aboriginals. Okay, so I may end it here because let me see, I think we're over an hour. And I was hoping to finish. We're almost there. We're almost there. I actually want to let's go a little bit further. All right, I'm gonna give 5 more minutes. Set that clock for 5 more minutes. Okay, so those attacks on what they call Black Indians and autonomous Americans, okay, it's all over the internet, and one of the leading individuals was this guy right here named Sal Sasson, okay, and anything having to do with, I don't care what it was, whether it be Aboriginal Americans, whether it be Africans, whether anything where it was brown-skinned people having to do with the origin of civilization, this guy attacked it vehemently. Okay, he's one of the most racist people that ever existed on YouTube. Okay, talking the nigger talk, and all that, heavy use of the N-word and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, like serious hatred. Okay, and it was me and a couple of others that shut him down. Okay, he used to attack people like Clyde Winters. People in the Aboriginal movement, have their opinions, about Clyde Winters or whatever. Me, I take a different position. Me, just because somebody comes from a different perspective, I don't discount their whole body of work just because I disagree on, a few points that they make, that are not in line with my perspective. The thing is that you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. He may be coming from, the African-centered perspective, but his whole body of work, is something that you can't just dismiss. So, but yeah, he used to attack Clyde Winters heavily, and I'd be back and forth on in those chats and shutting everything that he says down, and I had my series on YouTube, shutting Sal Sasson down, and he'd have many aliases. He'd set up these fake accounts and stuff on YouTube, going by under different names and trolling everybody's channel, who at that time they, those who went under the black Indians, and those who, said anything, that had anything positive, with regards to copper colored people at the origin of civilization, whether it be in the Americas, Africa, Europe, or wherever. Okay. All right. And this was like we're talking about like like in the 2000s, 2008, 2007, 2006. As you can see, this is a series that I had out back then, and we were just shutting South Sasson down. These are just some of the videos. Other videos were so powerful they took them down. Like those from like 2006 and stuff like that. I think these videos are from like 2007. Um, but some of the stuff I was saying, like a year and a year or two before this, was so powerful. You can't even find those videos on YouTube anymore. All right. They quickly shut those down. And so my group was the American Mound Builders Research Team. Okay, we frequented, many powwows, researched history, practiced Aboriginal culture, and we archived and preserved books and documents. Like, I would get, cause, and, as y'all know, I've had thousands of books, as a book distributor, I've had in my possession, like anywhere from like 3,000 or 4,000 books, and when I bought books back in the days, I'd always buy doubles, to create the library. It was actually working on creating a mound builders library, dealing specifically with copper colored American Aborigines. Okay. But as y'all saw, those who follow my channel, as y'all saw on one of my videos, I showed y'all where, I had to throw away a lot of those books, due to, relocation, having to relocate and stuff like that. Garbage bags of books and videos and stuff like that just had to go. I know many people had commented that I should have given them to people and stuff like that. It's not that easy, because, books are heavy. I'm not paying for, shipping and stuff like that. That stuff is expensive, it's not as easy, like that. And then especially when you're dealing with a time frame that you got to be out of a place, you don't have time to, and then you got to lug all of that stuff. It's just, you only know if you're in that position. It's not just, that simple when you're talking about getting rid of, tons and tons of books. It's not that easy. Bringing that amount of stuff, somewhere. Okay. But yeah, we would frequent the powwows and archive and preserve this stuff. This is one of the publications. This right here was actually more of a resource book that I had compiled, with many references, for you to do further research and stuff like that, and this book, this publication is more a pamphlet, Moors, the original Native Americans, Let me make this a little bigger so that y'all can see. And anyone who's been following me since back that time, y'all remember this particular resource guide. Moors, the original Native Americans, exposing the suppressed history of slavery and ancient black races in America. Okay, anybody who may been following me from back then, leave a comment in the comment section, so I know who, my people who've been down, from day one are, and this is the table of contents from there, and this is the year 2007. Moors, the original Native Americans, exposing the suppressed history of slavery and ancient quote-unquote black races in America. This is the contents. America's best kept secret, black people and their ancient legacy, the ancient Egyptian artifacts, monuments, and temples throughout America, which is the original ancient Egypt. Ancient Punt is in America. The ancient Blackfeet, the connection between Atlantis, the Moors, and the Americas. Okay, so I did a video dealing with that, and you already know what happened to that video. That video just disappeared from YouTube. That was like, I think that was actually before I put this pamphlet together. I think that was like in 2006. I did a video talking about that. Okay, 2 Moors, American Indian Freemasonry, and the Founding Fathers, the Moorish legacy kept under a conspiracy of silence, the truth about slavery, the karmic debt paid by Moors today, the Moorish Zionist Temple before the Moorish Science Temple, Moorish Science, Masonic apron found in ancient Mexico, compass and square found in North America 1800 years ago, the all-seeing eye found among the mound builders, and lastly, suggested readings and American Mound Builders Research and Revival Team's study course information and how to join. Okay, yeah, I actually put together a study course, I used to do like little workshops, out of my apartment, in Brooklyn back in the days. And so yeah, as you can see, the fierce truth seeker, was way ahead of his time, with this whole Aboriginal. I could tell people I was one of the pioneers of this whole movement, American Indian Freemasonry and stuff like that. Wasn't nobody talking about American Indian Freemasonry back in those days, and so this is pioneering stuff here. And we'll go into. I'm not gonna, I'll leave it right here. We'll get into and we'll look at. Well, actually, I'll give you all. I really want to get past this lineage part. I want to get past this. But it's getting late right now. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it right here, and we'll pick up. Yeah, we'll pick up from here on the next video. Let me go back so that when we